Hello, everybody, to another episode of the Cardano Hotel podcast, broadcasting from the Cardano Hotel Ginebra in Barcelona. The Cardano Hotel podcast is sponsored by Stakepool Hotel. So if you would like to support the podcast, then this is how you can help. Today is a very, very important episode because we have as our guest the CEO of WorldMobile, which is the telecommunications company, which together with Cardano and IOHK is going to change the future for millions of people in Africa. So let's go and meet Micky. So hello everybody, we're here with Micky Watkins of telecommunications company WorldMobile. So Micky, welcome to the Cardano Hotel podcast.
Hi, nice to meet you. How are you?
Great, great to have you. Micky, can you please introduce yourself a little bit to the audience and explain your function inside of WorldMobile?
Sure, I'm Micky Watkins. I'm the founder and I'm the CEO of WorldMobile.
Right. So WorldMobile is a telecommunications company. When was it founded and by whom? And give us a bit of the background story.
Officially 3 years ago, it was founded by me. It sounded like a crazy idea. I went to my partners, now the co-founders, and explained to them that I thought that I had a solution to connect half the world. They wondered if I was okay or not, but soon after, they backed me, and here we are today. WorldMobile is in 3 different countries, and I'm rocking.
Right. So how would you describe in short manner the mission of WorldMobile?
The mission of WorldMobile is to connect the unconnected and to bank the unbanked, but is to provide everybody with the same access to the same set of tools and services as we have in the Western world, in the connected world.
Right. So how many people do you estimate that are currently globally unconnected?
3.7 billion people are unconnected from the internet. 3 billion people are currently unbanked. Mm-hmm. And many billions of people are being overcharged and are paying disproportionately and are having a lot of their value taken from them rather than given to them.
Right. So that's a big problem that you're trying to tackle.
Sure.
Where is WorldMobile currently operational? Where did you start and how's it going with the project?
So pilots and feasibility studies, proof of concepts over the last 3 years have been in Tanzania. In the last year, we've rolled out into Zanzibar, some other proof of concepts, and now we've also registered in Kenya. So we're in 3 different countries right now.
Right. And what is in the pipeline? How do you expect your progress to?
A lot. Very exciting time for us. So Zanzibar, there's going to be a full rollout across the country itself. There's 1.3 million people. Represents a perfect ground where the people are receptive of us. They're really excited for us to come. And we can actually go there and trial a few of the different builds of the network and namely get the sharing economy right. So we're expecting to have approximately 100,000 users live on the network by the end of this year. And then into the beginning of next year to have got the sharing economy working and to be rolling out nationally into Tanzania and of course to collect more users onto the network in Zanzibar.
Right. So what is interesting is that the question arises, why are those people not connected yet? So, I mean, other telecommunications companies apparently decided against making those kind of investments necessary to connect all those people in Africa. So why did you decide, what is your business model? And it says
Sure.
Yeah, please explain.
Okay, so the people in Africa, it's not just Africa, by the way, there's also people in England and in Spain, in Europe, connected where they are due to their location is because legacy infrastructure, legacy technology just can't reach that far. So mobile network operators do want to go and connect the unconnected. It's not like they don't want to make an investment or they're absolutely willing to make many investments, but the technology doesn't support it. There's big tech companies like Facebook, Google, Microsoft, who can reach far, and they've proven they can reach far, cheaper than the big guys. But when they get there, they can't connect the unconnected. And that's evident by the fact that there's still 3.7 billion people unconnected. Facebook just shut down their project after spending millions, tens of millions, potentially even hundreds of millions of dollars on building the Loon project in East Africa. and that's shut down too. So even $1 trillion company can't connect the unconnected. So we think that we've got a solution to connecting the unconnected, and that was something called the sharing economy.
Okay, great. On your website, you identify 3 main components of your shared economy. So let's pick them apart. Let's look at each one of them individually.
Sure.
The first one, you're explaining that your network is a mesh network, which is built and managed by the people. How does that work?
Okay, so Wi-Fi technology on the mesh level has existed for many years. There's many mesh networks out there. In fact, there's cities, whole cities in South America that run their entire communications on mesh. In the UK, statistic, I think around 60% of people's calls are traveling in through the Wi-Fi. Wi-Fi on is built on phones. So what we decided to do is say, okay, Wi-Fi is an unlicensed spectrum, it's cheap to deliver, is very effective, is commonly used. So we're going to deliver Wi-Fi to the people on the ground outside their houses, in the villages, in the rural areas of East Africa, Tanzania and Zanzibar, namely. That's via something called an air node. An air node is a device that has an overclocked solar panel. It's a pole. On that top of that pole is a street light underneath the solar panel. Underneath that is a wireless access point, completely agnostic. It could be a Cisco, Ubiquiti, Motorola, any type of device. Plugged into that is the WorldMobile chain via a Raspberry Pi or an even smaller device, a lesser device, cheap. And underneath that is some second life batteries from the EV, electronic vehicle revolution in East Africa. So we bring them there and then we refurbish them. And then all of a sudden you've got an air node. That air node has a transponder that converts the signal from the backhaul into Wi-Fi. And then the Wi-Fi is then spread into the village to the people. So that's the air node and the mesh network on the grounds. And that's the bit that we're practicing and refining the sharing economy through that air node. So that air node costs around $5,000 as it stands right now, and represents an ROI, a return of investment on that air node within 1.5 to 2 years, based on a village of 200 to 300 people. So it's a really good additional business for a villager or a business person or an entrepreneur to have. It's like livestock or like a shop or like a fishing boat. You know, you're guaranteeing a return, which is very different because this return is coming from a real industry, $3 trillion industry, and the demand is massive. Right.
So basically, the incentive for people to participate and wanting to open up their village to your company is because they can create an income with it. They can create revenue.
Sure, that's what a sharing economy is. That's probably why the big guys haven't, the big tech companies haven't succeeded yet. And that's maybe why the MNOs haven't succeeded, because when you put down some infrastructure that's not yours, you wake up the next day, it's often not there. Or if you have to repair something and you have to travel 30 kilometers, but the roads aren't made, that could take a long time for you to get there. So it's very costly. Not only is the spectrum costly, not only is the legacy infrastructure costly, maintaining infrastructure in rural areas is really costly too. Mm-hmm. So if you share that cost and you share that responsibility with local people, all of a sudden, when someone is making something from something, it becomes valuable to them. When something is valuable, most often than not, you look after what's valuable.
Exactly. One of the added bonuses to your construction is that you're using renewable energy, right? So where did you get the technology? Do you have a partner, or is it something that you provide yourselves?
Yeah, so Andrew Soper on our team, he's Mr. Renewable Energy East Africa. He's worked with the big MNOs, and he's deployed to many thousands of schools and home solar setups and businesses solar. So the solar is really cheap. It's been brought down the price over the last 2 to 3 years. And it solves a hell of a lot of problems. It's not just powering the node itself, it's also allowing the people in the village who have devices to charge their device. It's also allowing the street light to work. I mean, this means a lot in Africa, right, especially on the equator, when it gets dark really, really quite early and the same time every night. So business stops. It's not safe for people to walk around. All of a sudden, you can feed one node to another node to another node, and now you've got a whole street of lights. What we notice is that people doing business underneath these lights, the economy ticked over. Restaurants and shops stayed open because they were able to plug into this. These, of course, were only feasibility studies and proof of concepts on quite a large scale. But the commercial rollout, when we actually can charge for this inside the application, when we can make the deals with the governments to be mini grids and to work with them, when Yeah, so solar energy and the backup batteries have allowed us to put power where there just wasn't power, and really cheaply and effectively.
Right. So suddenly what used to be like a 12 or 14-hour economy is now turning into like a 24-hour economy, maybe.
Literally, I don't know if it's not for me to say whether it's good or bad, but we know that the bedtimes there changed from around 8:30 at night to people socializing and drinking and tea and coffee and enjoying themselves throughout the night because they had these lights, because they had this power, because they could power the device. So yeah, it's going to stimulate local economies, of course.
Yeah, and productivity. What happens if a village produces? Is it possible that a village produces more electricity than it needs themselves, and can it then offset it to another village? Is that possible or not?
Sure. And this is something we're absolutely thinking about. We've experienced business models like this before, and they'll be incorporated under the WMT, the World Mobile Group.
Mm-hmm. Last question on the topic of shared economy for now is where does blockchain technology come into the technical setup?
Okay, so telecoms on a deep level has a lot of inefficiencies, billing, immutability. Unfortunately, over the years, as telecoms is tanking, revenues are dropping, mobile network operators, they just can't reach the other half of the world. So they're having to extract value. For us, it offers transparency, it offers immutability. But beyond that, it allows people to get paid for the service that they offer in the sharing economy without a middleman, without a centralized body. And of course, digital, huge thing. You know, there's many mesh networks that have been set up throughout Africa and the world. But those mesh networks aren't sustainable because once people are on them, unless you have an identity, what really can you do? So you can't apply for a MasterCard or a credit card or a debit card or a bank. You can't get a PayPal. You can't even get a Facebook account. You can't, so you need, right? You need identity to make the internet really a useful place. You need an identity that's accepted commonly, nationally, and internationally. At that point, you're opening up a real new world because you're starting to include people. And if you give them self-data governance and it's their identity, this really is changing everything. Now a person enters, they come with their phone. You'll be surprised to learn, and we were very surprised to learn 2 years ago, the penetration of smartphones is huge in these villages. So you go there and it's the choice device. It provides a light, a camera, so you charge it when you go to work, you come home, you download your stuff whilst you're at work because often there isn't the signal for internet in the village. You then come home, it gets dark, you see your friends, it gets dark, you go inside the house, and this is your device. You might have a small solar panel set up or a battery or a power bank, and that's it. But you don't have internet. So once a village wakes up and they see internet outside their house, see a signal, they're straight onto the internet. But when they subscribe for the very first time, they're making their digital identity. And then there's a pre-qualified marketplace beyond that. So it's like the Chronicles of Narnia. You open the door of the cupboards and it's a new world. And it's a new world where those people are keeping their identity. It's a new world where those people are having economic freedom of choice. So it's even a new world for us because we've given up all of that in the quest for connectivity and to have faster and more stable internet. We just accept no economic freedom of choice as an example. So in Africa, we're trying to reset that. We're trying to reboot that.
Right. So in that context, you've struck a collaboration with the Cardano blockchain project.
Yes.
Maybe more precisely with IOHK, which is of course with the wonderful CEO Charles Hoskinson. So how did this partnership come about? And please explain the benefits of the collaboration.
How did it come about? Okay, so we have a global ambassador. His name is James Bowater. I met with him around 3 years ago, and he said to me, you're telling me this story. I can't help but think I should take you to my friend Charles. And I was not really big in the blockchain scene at that time. And he said Charles was the former CEO of Ethereum, and now he's built Cardano, and they're going to win this race, even though they're going slow, and they're going after making a financial ecosystem that can bank the unbanked. So I went up to Plutus Fest in Edinburgh with James and Alan Omnet, who's our COO. And we went to a pub and we met Charles and we were talking, and I said to Charles, look, I think I've got something and I think you're going to need this. And he looked at me and said, what have you got? And I said, well, look, I've got a mobile network that's running on alternative spectrum, renewable energy, and I want to build it on blockchain, and I see the benefit. And you want to bank the unbanked. First we need to connect the unconnected. This seems to me like a perfectly symbiotic relationship.
Exactly.
So Charles, as good as he was, had me in the office the next day. Had John O'Connor on the phone. A few weeks later, John O'Connor was out in Tanzania with Andy and RJ, our partners there. And the rest is history. And it's been 2 years, very, very careful, very, very thoughtful planning. And what, the outcome of that is that in the next 3, 4, 5 months, we're going to launch the 6th generation of communications. We're launching what we believe is 6G, a mobile network built on renewable energy, alternative spectrum, and blockchain. And of course, IOHK are partners in this, and all of this is being built on Cardano.
Right. So I think that this was one of my questions. Actually, the project is actually being built on the Cardano blockchain, right?
Yes. The project is being built by the same engineers who developed Cardano on the Cardano blockchain, is using many of the elements, and it will be exited. It's a native asset. So yes, absolutely. It's all going to run on the Cardano blockchain.
Exactly. So like you said, it's a very symbiotic relationship, because you have sort of a lot of the same goals and targets as Cardano. In certain ways, they even seem to overlap a little bit. So
well, they do, but what we believe is you don't need to reinvent the wheel. Why would we reinvent the wheel? Charles Hoskinson has and IOHK, John O'Connor, have spent the last years developing an amazing solution to banking the unbanked. We believe that everybody should have access to financial inclusion and the same set of tools and services. But we also believe that if there's a partner out there that's better at banking the unbanked, they should. And there's nobody else in the space that has the same vision and foresight as IOHK. That developed Cardano. So for us to go and build our own blockchain was just against the morals and the mission of WorldMobile. Why would we reinvent the wheel? So at the same time, for IOHK and Cardano to bank the unbanked, they need to connect the unconnected. So we're specialists in this, and they're specialists in that. And yes, the vision, there's an overlap, but the job, there's a clear definition here. We connect the unconnected, they bank the unbanked, and together we open a new world.
Fantastic. You're also mentioning in your website, you're talking about Earth nodes, right? So please explain again maybe what they are and how does this fit into the project?
Sure. Earth nodes are the computational layer. They're in the clouds. They're part of the sharing economy that anybody can own. They process telephone calls that are on net. They process messages. They hold data, completely encrypted, of course, self-governed data. And they're the easiest entry for anybody that isn't on the ground in a place where we have licensing for them to enter and become part of the sharing economy.
Then, excuse me, so there was the example of a village in Tanzania on your website, whereby you described how the village runs today and how it might run tomorrow, right?
Yeah.
And you call this a smart village. So, so explain if a village in Tanzania would adhere to all your new technology, what impact might it have on their daily lives, and what do you envision for the future?
Okay, so let me be clear here. So everything that we did so far was feasibility studies and proof of concepts. So what I'm about to tell you was without digital identity and was out without a commercial license. So remittance and money transfer was not possible. But what happened is we went out to Tanzania. We went to install a network as a proof of concept. We asked the village if it was okay. We found the most rural representation that we could, that was not too far from Dar es Salaam. But in the middle of nowhere, with only potentially 1 bar of signal in a very small area. At 1 bar of signal, you couldn't even send a USSD, and definitely there's no internet. So we decided to go and put 2 air nodes in this village and come back after a month. We couldn't come back after a month because, as we know, as it played out today, we had something called coronavirus and COVID-19, and we got stuck. So we left the village. We left the village online for as long as we possibly could. It was about 6 or 7 months. And we got back. When we got back there, we witnessed something we didn't expect. The population had increased. There wasn't 1 shop anymore, there was 3. The fishermen were rich because they were starting to export their own fish to Zanzibar and their crabs to China. The chief of the village was content that he had a mobile device. We had students who were saying, look, please, we need this internet here. On a full-time basis. It changed our life. We learned to study. It changed everything. And that was without digital identity. That was without easy access to e-money or remittance. That was without many of the really important services that we've been developing. But as we go commercial, it won't just be that we come back to this village. It will be every village around, and they will have digital identity. They will have the ability to send money to each other. And what's interesting here is mobile money. There's 450 million wallets in Africa. It represents the biggest amount of mobile money wallets in the world.
You're talking about crypto wallets?
No, I'm talking about mobile money wallets that are held by mobile network operators on their phones, so you could send money. But it's a very, very expensive thing for a transaction for a person to perform.
Give us an example.
For example, okay, without naming any names, there's many mobile operators out there that will charge 30% to send anything under $5, and they also charge the recipient of the sending a certain percentage too. So
it's actually more expensive to send the money than the money that you might be receiving.
It's like Ethereum. It's daylight robbery. That's what it is. But this is something that, mobile network operators are having to further monetize because their revenues are dropping. So what we hope is by connecting the other half of the world, or the other half of Tanzania that is unconnected, and we can kind of meet in the middle somewhere, and the people will have that economic freedom of choice, and then it will force a certain type of behavior from the existing oligopoly, but not because they have to, but because they'll find a new market that they can access and promote their tools and services to, and they won't need to be so guarded and controlling with the fees that they charge to people that can't afford them.
Mm-hmm. Have you thought about creating any affiliate programs for people in a village? For example, people that are already connected in a village, and they might then bring the next village to you and make and earn on that.
Sure, peer-to-peer communication, peer-to-peer education is a huge thing for us, especially in Africa. In some ways, they're much more advanced than we are in cooperatives and communicating between villages. What we found as well is that the village that we connected, the villages around came and said, "Why haven't you connected our village?" Yeah. We said, "Wait, we're coming for sure." But yes, we see that this is a sharing economy, and the more people that talk and understand both on the ground and in the crypto space, that's the solution to this, because it's not about one centralized body anymore. I said to you earlier in the show, Google have proven that, $1 trillion company, and they can't connect the unconnected. Facebook is still trying. Microsoft has done great jobs in helping and supporting, but there's still 3.7 billion people on the planet unconnected. You have to ask yourself why.
Exactly.
So it's about making, incentivizing people along the way, and not just making 20 shareholders extremely rich. It's about a real sharing economy where everybody can earn.
Yes. The technicians that you currently have on the ground in Tanzania, where are they from? I'm presuming that at the moment they might still be.
Yeah, they're from Tanzania. Andrew Soper, for example, he's 30 years East Africa. His family's been in East Africa for 60 years. They have a big solar business in Kenya. He's been living in Tanzania for the last decade. He's just recently moved back to the UK, but he travels back and forth. We've got RJ out there, deployed for Microsoft. He's built the biggest mesh network in completely autonomous, self-serving mesh network in Africa, East Africa. He's built that himself. He's worked with the USID project, rolled out hundreds and hundreds of schools. Actually, as it stands right now, with the existing team that we've got on our own budget that we've been paying from our own pocket, we can roll out to 600 villages a month, both solar power and mesh networks. So in the next 2 to 3 weeks, you'll see something incredible happen. And you'll see the beginning of a new standard and the 6th generation of telecom being delivered in 7 years, 8 years early.
Wow. And exclusively in Africa.
Starting there. Yeah, but we're called WorldMobile. It's not about only Africa, but we go where the demand is needed first. Sub-Saharan Africa, you've got 1 billion people. From that 1 billion people, 800 million are unconnected. So and the average age is 19.7 years old. The demand is massive. They don't need it today, they need it tomorrow. So, and they're paying disproportionately, and other mobile network operators can't reach that far. So Opportunities is massive. It's the biggest opportunity that I've ever had in my career. There's, you know, and even if there's 100 people or 200 or 300 or 400 mobile network operators jump in, it still won't be saturated. This part of the connected world, the half that is connected, has 1,000 mobile network operators operating, right? That's a $3 trillion industry with just half the world connected. And that's not with digital identity or a system built to bank the unbanked on top of that. So you put all these things there, you're not talking about a $3 trillion industry. You're talking about being able to access, you know, potentially hundreds of trillions of dollars further down the line. But yeah.
One quick question, because I mean, here in Europe, in Spain, we're hardly getting used to 5G, and you're already mentioning 6G. What is the difference? Very, very short. So
when I say the 6th generation, I'm talking about the 6th generation of inclusivity. We work with Professor Slimalouni. He's a professor he's developing the next generation of technologies. When I say 6G, I mean completely skipping the licensed spectrums. That's what it's about. It's about using unlicensed spectrum, free space optics, TV white space, a combination of spectrums in order to be able to deliver. Right now, the current state of the market of the world is that there was hundreds of innovators 15 to 20 years ago, 10 years ago, even in the mobile space. But the big guys, the oligopoly, they bought them out and they put their technology in a drawer. And what's happened is innovation's been stifled. And because of that stifling, the operators now find themselves in a box.
We've already come to the end of the podcast. A lot of information very fast. Is there anything that you feel that we didn't address in the interview that you would still like to explain?
Not at all. I would love to come and see you. I think that it would be great one day to have Antonio, who's also in Barcelona, our CTO, come on the show and talk some of the tech stuff, if anybody wanted to understand anything more. And it's a pleasure, and I look forward to coming to have a coffee with you soon.
Absolutely. And is there a last final message that you would like to deliver to the Cardano community or people, whoever might watch this, people in Africa, anybody interested in your technology?
Sure. Forget the technology. The technology is happening. The technology is always happening. There's very clever people in the space. If you don't know that there's 3.7 billion people unconnected on the planet and that every other person on the planet can't take part in the things that we can take part, you should. And when you should, do whatever you can to help and to support that and to tell everybody, because this is the big, you know, the elephant in the room that nobody talks about because they don't know about it. But it's not right, it's wrong. And we're leaving half the world offline, and we can do something about it.
I couldn't agree more. Micky Watkins, it was a great pleasure to have you, and looking forward to see you in Barcelona, and maybe again on the podcast.
Thank you very much. See you soon.
Cool. Take care.
All the best. Bye.
Bye.